Will a trip back in time to ancient Krypton and a meeting with his father Jor-El shed some light on the secret history of the Phantom Zone? Well, let's hop into the pages of Action Comics issue number 1074 and find out together, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue left off, Superman had been thrown into the eye of the Phantom Zone only to come out the other end back in time to planet Krypton not long before its destruction. The Red Sun is proving to be quite troublesome for Clark, and if he doesn't somehow find some way to recharge his solar gauntlets and make it back to the main Phantom Zone, then everyone is going to be very boned very quickly. This also isn't Superman's first rodeo traveling in time, and as such he figures he should probably cover up his House of El symbol and try to adopt an alternate identity to try and make sure that he doesn't create any paradoxes. Also, about how close is Superman to the actual destruction of the doomed planet Krypton? Well, he ends up getting rocked by a giant planet quake, which after he tries to push a civilian out of the way, poor Clark ends up getting injured by some falling debris. And not to worry though, this planet has socialized medicine, so he's gonna be a-okay. Now believe it or not, this issue of the weekly ongoing series actually comes packing B and C plots. We see what became of Mon-El as he still attempts to challenge Aeythr. Like the reader, Mon-El is filled with questions for Aeythr, mainly, hey, if you're so powerful, why the hell are you still messing around here in the Phantom Zone to begin with? And the answer is honestly pretty distressing. Aeythr maintains that he was serious about trying to save those in the Phantom Zone from their horrible fate as race, but when the Kryptonian criminals spurned his gift by returning to their psychopathic and criminal ways, he vowed that they were beyond saving, and as such the Phantom Zone should be reused and recycled in different ways, whatever those might be. Now it's after that we actually check back on in with Connor and Con Keenan. They're still in the International Museum of Space trying to figure out the best way to rescue Superman's stuff, as well as get themselves back to Earth. Remember, they're in a complicated situation right now. Even though the museum operators are clearly shitty people, this isn't a problem they can just punch their way out of without causing some sort of intergalactic incident. Luckily though, for our two young heroes, they don't have to, as it's at that very moment the museum ends up coming under attack by the Khund. Apparently this museum just so happened to grave rob some ancient Khund emperor, and now this warlike race is out for blood. Super-Man tries to step in and defend the museum staff, saying that if the Khund spares them and leaves peaceably, then he and Connor will be sure that the Khunds are given proper reparations. The only problem with this strategy is that the Khund language actually has no word for peace, and as such they assume that Superman must be threatening them, meaning that a massive fight breaks out. Obviously Superboy and Superman are able to make short work of the ground troops, only to realize that the Khund have brought a massive war fleet. With that out of the way, we check back on in with Superman. His solar bands are quickly running out, meaning that he's going to need a super scientist to help him. Luckily, he knows one in the form of his father, Jor-El. Though in the back of Clark's mind, he's a little anxious about this meeting, as a bunch of people have been giving him the stink eye for how bad his Kryptonese is. Basically, our hero is getting a cold reminder that despite how much he venerates the ancient Kryptonians and their love of science and progress, they were far from a perfect people. They had their own problems and their own hang-ups. On the upside though, Superman does get the rare opportunity to actually share a conversation with his mother Laura and even get to see himself as a small baby. In fact, in a fun bit of characterization, Superman notes that he's actually older now than his parents were at the time that Krypton was destroyed. Also, Superman's fake Kryptonian name he decides to use is Clark Kent. I like it. Turns out Superman couldn't have picked a more auspicious day too to come and visit his parents back in time, as when Jor-El returns home he's all pissed off. The Science Council having apparently torn a major strip out of him and calling him a crackpot alarmist for daring to say that Krypton's days as a planet are numbered. Still though, Jor-El is more than happy to help a fellow scientist in Clark Kent. In fact, he's actually quite amazed by the advanced technology that he's managed to build with these solar bracelets, a fact of which Superman actually takes to heart, getting such a nice compliment from his scientist dad. In fact, when Superman gets to hang out with Jor-El in his lab, he notes that his father is unlike anything he ever could have imagined. He's actually something of a scientific Willy Wonka. But of course, the big burning question that Superman has to ask is, hey, what's the deal with the Phantom Zone projector? Only get this, turns out that Jor-El hadn't even named the thing yet. But more importantly, when he was experimenting with an ethereal realm, he never did so to try and turn it into a prison for Kryptonians. Quite the opposite, he believed the Phantom Zone could be Krypton's lifeline, in case the population ever needed to escape the doomed planet. But hey, if Jor-El didn't invent it with that idea in mind, who did? Well, it's at that very moment the leader of the Science Council ends up breaking in with his goons, in hopes of stealing away all of Jor-El's amazing technological advancements for himself, and because poor Superman isn't strong enough to defend himself and his father right now, they both end up getting jumped. And believe it or not, it's on that note right there the comic comes to an end, everybody, and so that was Action Comics number 1074, and while we've certainly seen a lot of stories where Superman travels back in time to ancient Krypton, and while this one doesn't exactly break the mold or show us anything we haven't seen before, I did certainly have a lot of fun with it. I find it interesting that both this story and Absolute Superman, which also came out this week, kind of ended up hitting upon the same theme and idea when it comes to Krypton pre-destruction, that they were a society that very much valued scientific advancement and technological perfection, even when it meant sometimes they didn't worry about the human cost associated with such advancements, and how even someone like Clark would feel unwelcome or even looked down upon in old Krypton. The big revelation, of course, is that Jor-El never actually built the Phantom Zone with plans to make it into a prison, and it looks like someone else only ended up co-opting his idea later, which I guess is good for washing the House of El's hands. And that maybe when everything is said and done with this story, Superman will actually try and go back and address the sins of the past by maybe reimagining the Phantom Zone as something that can actually rehab people instead of just punish them. Overall, I think I'd feel comfortable giving this one a 7.5 out of 10. It's fun, it's exciting, but not really anything we've not seen before.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.